Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila, you're at my book nook, and today we have some duology fantasy book recs. So a duology, for those that don't know, consists of just 2 books, and the character or the story arc is more or less finished in those books. So the first duology I have is one that I've talked about quite a bit, but hey, if you're new to the channel, if you haven't read it, not the end of the world. And good for me, because then I can talk about it more. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I would show you my copy of Six of Crows. I don't have my copy of Six of Crows. Why do I not have my copy of Six of Crows, you ask? Because my cousin has it. Why do I not have her copy of Six of Crows? Because she didn't finish annotating it. We decided to annotate the Six of Crows for the other, and I finished my annotations because I annotate as I read, and she finished the book. She just didn't finish her annotations. So there's that. Six of Crows follows 6 characters. We have Kaz Brecker, Inej Gaffa, Jesper Fahey, Matthias Halvar, and Wylan. And so we follow them as they are on a heist ice palace that the Northerners, whose names I've forgotten, Fjordans, that's what it is. They're supposedly impenetrable, and they have to rescue the scientist that is making this drug that make the magic users of the Grisha go a little and really access like their deepest, darkest power, like so the Afghans don't want it to, they don't want it in the wrong hands, basically. So yeah. I don't know what else I can really tell you, because like don't stop at the first chapter, because the first chapter doesn't even have much to do with the general story. It's sort of like a precursor to sort of what they have to deal with. And just don't don't let the first chapter deter you, okay? It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be like nonsensical. You're like, oh, what the hell is this? Just continue reading. If you don't like it after the second chapter, stop, but just continue reading past the first chapter. So I would highly recommend this one. This is in the Grishaverse series world. So the Grishaverse consists of Shadow and Bone, which is a trilogy. We have Six of Crows, which is a duology. And then we have King of Scars, which is another duology. And technically, you can just read Six of Crows and call it a day. You can read Shadow and Bone. I really don't care. I wouldn't recommend it because I think it's pretty... It's not the best. But that's a whole other can of worms. I have thoughts and feelings about Shadow and Bone. We're not going to get into that. But Six of Crows, what Leigh Bardugo really excels at in this are the character arcs and just the general like world building in relation to the characters. And it's really grimy and gritty, and it's really it's great. And I think the TV show visuals really nailed how Ketterdam is, which is where they live, how Ketterdam is really supposed to look like, because they literally just brought it to life on screen, which was crazy to see, because I'm like, whoa, I literally just like imagine that, like crazy stuff. So that is Six of Crows. The next book I have is the next duology I have is The Witches. I think it's called like The Witches Compendium of Monsters, something like that. But basically, the first book is called Foul Days, and the second book is called Monstrous Nights. These are both by Genoveva Dimova. They're both out. All of these have are out. So this one follows our main girl, Kosara, I think it is, and she is a witch, and a witch's power is tied to her shadow. She lives in the walled city of Chernagrad, and outside that walled city is Belgrad. So Chorne, Biele, Chorne meaning black, Biele meaning white. In Chernagrad, that is like the city of monsters. So monsters roam. You have rusalkas, you have kikimoras, you have all these different creatures. And during the specific set of, I believe it's 12 or 13 days, the Foul Days, before a celebration of a saint, I believe, the veil between the monster realm and the real world is very thin. So people have to be careful and have to prepare. And that's when the witches where the witches come in and help out. So Kasara, she is on the run from her ex, Zmei, who is the Tsar of monsters, and this is not an enemies to lovers. I cannot stress this enough. Her relationship with Zmei is abusive. I know that people have a tendency to jump onto the enemies to lovers kind of train, and I really want to stress that May in this case is not the good guy. He's not the good guy at all. There's no enemies to lovers here. There is just enemies and past lovers. He's an enemy. He's not a good guy. So basically, he somehow finds her and realizes that someone has ratted her out to him, and because she has taken precautions to make sure that he has hard time finding her, and so she bargains away her shadow for passage to Belgrade to get away from him, because the walls, like, you can't, it's very difficult for Chernagradians to leave Chernagrad. Like, the walls are alive. If you try to like fly in an air balloon over the thing, there'll be like jaws that are essentially like trying to grab you. And anyway, if you like dig deep, like it just doesn't work. You cannot get out of the city. So then there's this sort of death that happens. There's a mystery that happens. She meets a Belgradian cop named Asian. And over the course of the two books, they sort of get together in a sense. There's this romance that develops, and yeah, it's really good. I need more. I need more. I think that this author is incredible at writing atmosphere and is a very strong writer in that sense. And she really, really, like, imagining Chernagrad the way that it was versus how Belgrade was so clear in my mind. I think that is a very, very unique and special talent. So that is The Witch's Compendium of Monsters, Foul Days, and Monstrous Nights. Then we have the Shepherd King duology. Now, caveat here, I did start the second book, I just didn't finish it. I do plan on finishing it, but from what I read of the second book and from the fact that I read the first book, I enjoyed both. I love One Dark Window. Similar to how Genoveva Dimova does atmosphere and sort of the setting really well, I think that the author of One Dark Window also does setting really well. We are in this town that is covered by mist. It is very like medieval-esque, so there's sort of like an expectation for the girls to marry up and stuff like that, and everyone has last names that are related to trees, which is very, very interesting. And we also have a magic system that is based on cards. And I'm not talking about like aces or queens and kings. No, this is a new made up card magic system, which I think is crazy phenomenal. And basically, if you get all these cards, you can essentially get rid of the mist. And if someone uses the card, there is going to be a consequence. For example, Elspeth's cousin gets the bride card. So she becomes incredibly, incredibly pretty. However, she becomes incredibly cold and insensitive. And I think it sort of almost cruel in a sense. And I think that was I love when magic just has consequences, but they're unique in a way, that you don't fully expect. But I just think this was fantastic. I really like how the romance was developing. I like how cunning and witty, and the whole premise is just so interesting because Elspeth has a monster in her head that she calls the Nightmare. And it's just such an interesting book, and the twists and the turns and everything. I actually have an Instagram highlight on my Instagram page. If you want to check it out, I'll post a screenshot of what it looks like specifically if you want to see my reactions. So I would highly recommend the Shepherd King duology. Then we have, what am I looking at? Divine Rivals. This is for Divine Rivals and the other two that I'm going to be talking about, I've only read the first book. And in Divine Rivals, similar to One Dark Window, I started the second book, but in this case, I wasn't fully feeling it because it felt like it was book number one all over again. I can't really remember how exactly I felt about it, but I definitely didn't finish the book. I did read it, but I didn't finish it. However, the first book is, I think, perfection. We follow our main character, Iris, who is this journalist, and they are vying, her and Roman are vying for the prestigious position of a journalist at a very specific Gazette place, newspaper place. And so, and Iris's brother had gone to war. This is basically, I think it's similar to World War One, if I understand correctly, or World War Two. One of the world wars. It's very similar to that. And there are gods in this, totally made up gods. And yes, I will be reading Wild Reference. And so these two gods are at war, and so their believers went to war for them, essentially. And basically Iris is like, okay, whatever, I didn't get the job. I'm gonna go to the front lines and report there. And Roman's like, no, you're not going alone. So basically they both have these typewriters, right? And that's where they write their, articles and stuff. And they found out that if they slip the paper, their letters through, like, explain this. Basically, at one point, Iris starts writing. Oh my god, I think I have something like on my face and it's really bothering me. So basically, Iris starts writing letters to her brother on this typewriter that I believe she inherited from, like, her mom, I think, or her grandma or something like that. And basically she slips it under the door and stuff, and then all of a sudden she gets an answer back, and that answer is from, you guessed it, Roman. And so they go back and forth. So basically these typewriters are sort of like connected and stuff, and so they're going back and forth, and they develop this friendship only to find out that it's the other, and they're sort of like rivals essentially. But it's so good. It's such a good book. If you don't want to read the second one, fine, but just read the first one. Just please read the first one. It's so good. I know I went on a little bit of a ramble. It's been a second since I've read the book, so I don't fully remember what I'm supposed to tell you, not supposed to tell you. So I apologize if there are any spoilers, but it is, oh my god, that ending broke me. Next we have Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I need to read the second book. Oh my god. I think what happened was there was so much time between me reading the first book and me reading the second book that I just had to reread the first one, and I didn't want to reread the first one. Like, I just didn't feel like reading the first one, so I never ended up reading the second one, which is totally my fault. Like, that's totally on me. That's totally on me. However, I would recommend the first book at least, and honestly, I've heard good things about the second book. So, and Elizabeth Lim, I'm very tricky when it comes to, I'm picky when it comes to, like, series and duologies, especially because the first book can be amazing, but then the second book might be meh. You know what I mean? So it has to really keep the momentum going. So I think passing time was one factor to me not finishing The Dragon's Promise, which is the second book, and another factor was just I didn't feel like rereading the first one due to the factor of time. And so in this, we follow a girl, something with S, I think her name is, and basically she gets cursed, essentially. She has, like, magic, and she gets cursed, essentially, and she gets a bowl put on her head that covers her eyes. Shiori, I think it is. And then her brothers are turned into cranes, sorry. And this is this is, like, based on the Wild Swans, where the brothers are turned into swans by the evil stepmother. And basically, if she speaks, her brothers will die. And there's also a romance. She is promised to a prince from another kingdom, and she's never seen this prince. So she's like, oh, what if he's a monster? And yeah, he's not a monster. It has been a long time since I read this, like a really long time. And so I don't fully remember what the premise was, but I'll link everything down below so that you can check out the books for yourself. And then we have Priory of the Orange Tree. Now, Priory of the Orange Tree is a unique one because technically it's not a duology. There is a third book. However, it's interesting because I don't even know if the third book's out yet. I think it is. But Priory is very much, I think, Priory of the Orange Tree and A Day of Fallen Night, because those are the big books, and then the one that came out is smaller, and it, like, goes right in the middle. And you can read them sort of out of order in a sense. Like you can read Priory, Day, Fall, Night, and Among the Burning Flowers, or you can read Day, Fall, Night, Priory, no, and then Among the Burning Flowers. Anyways, so I sort of in my head still think of it as a duology, which is not correct, but I still want to recommend it. So I guess I'm cheating a little bit, but so don't come at me in the comments, I'm aware. But basically, we follow several characters. We follow the Queen Sabran and her helper Eid, who is sort of a, I don't say sorceress or witch, but she has sort of magic powers. And then we follow Tane, who is a dragon rider, and then there's the big bad dragon, essentially. And we follow another point of view who is like this sort of alchemist character, if I remember correctly. Again, it's been a long time. I think I read this way before I started Bookstagram. So it's been a long time. It's been over 5 years. But I do want to reread it again, but it's also 800 pages. I'm like, do I really want to read 800 pages right now? No, not really. But anyways, so basically we follow these characters over these 800 pages, and the twists are fantastic. The turns are amazing. And I really love how Samantha Shannon writes it with the sort of, I just love her writing. I don't know, it's one of the most gorgeous fantasy books I remember reading, and I read this in like 10 days. Again, this is 800 pages, and I had the hardcover from the library. Right now I have the paperback, like I own the paperback, and I'm waiting for the second, like, Day, Fall, Night to come out in paperback, if it's not in paperback already, and then I'll get Among the Burning Flowers in paperback eventually. But I just remember loving the writing so much. I thought it was so captivating and gorgeous, gorgeous writing. Gorgeous, gorgeous story, gorgeous, gorgeous writing. The covers, I mean, I feel like the cover says enough, right? So yeah, so that is those are all the duology recommendations that I have for you. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you have any other duology recommendations, do let me know down below. And I will see you in the next one. Happy reading!